Hey guys, good morning. Damien here again. Short video today. I want to do a couple things. I'm actually going to take you through the profile editor and we'll cover a flow profile versus a pressure profile, and I'll pull a couple of different shots, taste them, and see how we do with those. So first of all, let's jump right into the interface here. So I'm looking at the Espresso screen right now. Right now it's blank because I haven't pulled anything on it. I'm going to go ahead and click on the gear icon over here in the bottom right hand corner, which brings me to basically a list of the profiles and profile editor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll go to presets, and what you can see in presets is there's a number of options for presets. You can see if you can read those. Testing pre-infuse, I think that was me doing something, and then a number of these are built in. There's lots of them, and they're there to mimic various different types of machines or output. For instance, the E61 Classic. So this one is basically a pressure profile that just applies full pump force, or actually 9 bars of pump force, because the pump itself I think goes up to 13 bar. But 9 bars of pump force up to maximum, and just runs it. So basically this is the most basic sort of what you get at an Italian espresso shop, essentially. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones in here. What we'll do today is I'm going to do the default pressure profile, which has a pre-infusion. So I can actually click on the graph itself, and that will take me to the editor for this particular shot. So you can see here on the left hand side, I see that I'm pre-infusing for 20 seconds at 4 milliliters per second. There's a lot of headspace in the Decent machine, so you actually need quite a bit of water in the pre-infuse. So and you'll get used to that. And then essentially there's a rise and hold phase for 10 seconds at 8.6 bar, and then a decline where we want the pressure to decline to 6 bar for the next 25 seconds. So it only holds at 8.6 bars for 10 seconds before it declines. So this is basically just a built-in pressure profile. And remember, what's going to happen is the flow rate is going to be altered based on the desired pressure. So if we need more pressure to hit this mark, we're going to raise the flow rate. If we need less, we reduce it, and so on. So that's going to be what we're going to do. The other thing I'm going to do is I want to actually make this 192 degrees. This is where we change our temperature, by the way, as well. So I'll change my temperature. I'm experimenting with this coffee. I think I want it a little bit hotter. And the other things we can do, I actually am going to lengthen this decline to 30 seconds, just a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to stop it once I get to the volume, because I'm still dialing this grind a little bit. So that's our pressure profile. I'll go ahead and click OK, and that brings me back to this screen, and you see in the lower right hand corner that it says pressure profile default. They've made some UI changes, so the red actually means that the profile has been edited, so that's nice to know. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to prep this puck, load it in there, and we're going to fire this shot. Okay, here we go. I've got a double walled clear glass here, so this will keep this hot after I pull this shot. Scale is zeroed out. Looks like we're ready to go. So my goal is 192 degrees, the metal is 190, that's close enough. I'm going to go ahead and click start. And what's going to happen now is the water is actually getting mixed and preheated, sort of the last heating before it gets shot in. And one of the things I want you guys to notice too is when I did my 1 week video, it was the first firmware from the factory, which has been updated a few times since, and they've now fixed the temperature curve. So you'll see that temperature line is actually going to be really close to accurate for this shot. So you can see it actually is already kind of hitting that red line, that goal line that we're looking for. This is going to overshoot it just a little bit while it compensates. Now we see our pre-infuse on top, that green bar. And we had to adjust the flow a little bit to hit our numbers here. I'm going to stop this at about 31 grams. It's a little bit fast. Okay, so we're clearly a little bit too coarse on the grind. You can actually, let's take a look at this graph right here. So in order to maintain that pressure at the 8.6 bar, you can actually tell, I'll actually tap on this, so it gives me a little bit better resolution. I can tell that we didn't quite build pressure quite fast enough, so what we did was the machine actually boosted the flow rate to get it there. I'll back out just so you can see that line again. And in order to hold that rate, we had to essentially keep the flow at around 3 milliliters per second, which is a little fast. I don't want to see it that high. Temperature nailed it the entire time at the 192. So we're good with that. And it was only a 20-second pour for me to get to 35 grams of coffee. So looking at the coffee itself, though, I mean, it still looks pretty dang nice. Lovely crema on there. So we're going to give that a taste. I'll tell you what I think about it while I get the next shot ready. I have to say, this is pretty darn good. This is, just so you're aware, this is a home roasted coffee. It is the Sweet Maria's Majorani blend, so it's for Africans. It's not sour at all, which I love that. It's got some really nice kind of spicy flavors, chocolatey. It's got a nice little bite to it. I like this temperature, I think. So, all right. Very good, very good. I'm actually really pretty happy with that, despite the fact that the shot itself doesn't look perfect. So it's not everything is all about the numbers, I guess. Okay, so the next thing I want to go into is we're going to do a flow profile, so I'll show you the difference between that. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my settings again, go to presets, and we're going to go to, let's do flow profile for straight espresso. That's the one we want to work on. And you see that it changes, and it tells us that John Buckman finds that this produces the best espresso shots for straight espressos. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this editor again. Once again, I'm going to change the temperature so we have basically the same temp we had before, 192. And now you can see that the graph itself is totally different. So what we're trying to do here is maintain this flow that we've defined. So you can see that we have a pre-infusion, again, at 4 milliliters per second for about 20 seconds. This rise button that's over here on the left-hand side kind of has been explained to me that essentially this will sort of pulse the puck, for lack of a better term. So at the end of a pre-infusion, if you don't achieve complete pre-infusion, this will basically give it a burst of additional water, so the pump essentially runs quick, which will get you there. Basically, it gets that pressure to ramp itself up. You don't necessarily need that if your grind and tamp and everything else is kind of where it needs to be. The rise will happen automatically, and you'll get to that flow as soon as that headspace is filled up. So you can think of this as, if you guys have you ever used an AeroPress? As you add water to the AeroPress, and as you compress that plunger down to press the coffee out, as you reach a certain pressure level, it resists you. So we want to get to that point so that we get the pressure build up during the shot itself, that resist phase. So the rise will help with that if you're having trouble getting there. We're going to then hold at 30 seconds at 2.5 milliliters per second. So this is going to be a straight line across from my flow, and then there's no decline. I can, and the nice thing about the decline is actually it's a little bit of a misnomer, because I can change the decline, but I can actually ramp it up. So if I want the tail of this to go up, I can do that. And I've done this before, because if you noticed on the last shot we pulled, flow actually increases in order to maintain pressure as the puck erodes, whereas a flow profile, you're going to see the pressure decrease as the flow holds steady if you kept it that way. So I can sort of mimic that same thing of increasing the flow as the pressure drops, so I can try to maintain that pressure with the flow profile if I want to. But we're going to go stick to basically where we were before. So we're going to go 0 on the decline. We're going to leave it here at I'll let the hold out to 37 seconds, whatever, just there, so I can stop it when the shot is done. And you can always go in, obviously, and tweak this and change the number of seconds, so it will stop automatically when you've gotten to the amount of espresso that you want. Okay. Now, while we're here, I'll click on the advanced shot editor. This doesn't work yet, but I just want to show you that what steps we have in here, which is kind of cool. You can do a lot of things here. So you can see you can add steps. Right now, this is just pre-infusion, hold, decline, and you can see all the various settings that you can change, the types of transitions and so forth. I'm kind of excited for when this actually works. It'll be just more things to play with. But for now, the profile editor is plenty of stuff to work with. So we're going to leave it at this. I have 192. I have my 2.5 milliseconds, and we're good. One last thing, flow profiling is very, very difficult to achieve what you want to achieve, because the water just doesn't vary. So the pressure is just going to kind of do whatever the coffee decides it's going to do. And that could be, you know, if there's a channel or a pinhole, things are going to go haywire on you. That doesn't mean the coffee is going to be bad necessarily. This is what's happening inside of just, you know, any regular machine. But it's just neat to see the data. So I'd be surprised if I get anywhere near, you know, 9 bar on this flow profile shot, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and put 16 grams of coffee into a 15-gram basket, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Flow profile for straight espresso. See, it's red again because we edited it. We made it a little bit longer. I notched the grinder up one macro setting coarser, or finer, pardon me. So hopefully we actually hit a little better here. So I'll click start, and again we do that same thing with final heating. You can see that the temperature differentials over there on the right hand side actually shows you coffee and water temperatures, what it's doing to compensate for the fact that at the group head the temperature is a little bit colder. So here's our pre-infused starting. Remember, we did not do a rise, so we're hoping for a natural pressure rise. We'll see what we get up to, and then we're going to basically level off at 2.5 milliliters per second forever. You can see we're starting to rise now that we're 15 seconds in, which is good. And it's not getting there. Nope, flat line. So you see we only got to 3 bar. So this is how tough it is with these flow profiles sometimes to really get them. Now, I'm getting a decent pour out of it regardless. It's just not a very high pressure. We'll see how that tastes. And I'll stop it at the same as before, about 32.2 grams, so exactly a 1-to-2 ratio. So you can see that was really not great as far as nailing that, or well, we nailed the flow profile because that's what the machine is doing. But my pressure curve, it only got to 3 bar, and that was it. Never got any higher than that. Just kind of held there. So I need to go finer with my grind or add more coffee. You know, one of the two, to experiment with that. Now, of all the shots that I've done, I've only really gotten one god shot, as I would call it, that for a flow profile that really nailed a curve that I was looking for. And it's actually this sort of light green line and light blue line. So you can save your shot if you like one. That will appear there all the time. It's kind of like your ghost track for you to try to emulate. This is a really delicious espresso that I made. It got up to pretty high on the pressure, but immediately started declining, so it didn't stay there for very long. Tasted real good. It was just a well done shot. Now, I've changed coffee since then, and I'm still trying to kind of get this one nailed, but the pressure profiles are generally more forgiving, whereas the flow profiles are going to be a little bit tougher for you to match, because, you know, you're basically just pushing a constant amount of water through there, and the variable is a very natural substance called coffee, so things get a little bit weird like that. Now, if I look at the coffee itself, you can see there's a bit less crema on there, which makes sense because there's less pressure in it. It's still a lot better looking than the stuff I get from a lot of cafes. So I'll give this a try too, just to see what it would be like. Now, normally I don't really sink much because what I found is that with good coffee and good puck preparation, even if the numbers on the machine don't necessarily show this as great, I wasn't getting this stuff from my last machine. I would have assumed that this was just a decent shot that poured, you know, maybe 4 or 5 seconds too fast. You can see the pouring was 22 seconds there. So I'm aiming for 25 seconds, 30 seconds, somewhere around there. So I would still find this up on my other machine, but I would probably drink this and say that's pretty good. Not knowing at all what the pressure really was, because I didn't have a pressure gauge that really showed me much of anything in my old machine. So I hope that helps you guys understand the difference between a flow profile and a pressure profile. And that you enjoyed this video. Please go ahead in the comments. You can ask me to do stuff. I will happily kind of experiment for you, do some testing with this guy, and we can, you know, get fun with that. And also follow me on Instagram at Shishomatic as well. I kind of post some more daily stuff on the Decent Machine. Yeah, that's it. Have a great weekend. Thanks. Oh, I almost forgot the flavor of this one versus this one. So here's my two shots. The first one here on the right-hand side. Now, I use these double wall cups to compare because they keep the coffee relatively hot. So the first thing I can tell you is that this guy, the lower pressure one, is actually a lot more sour. Yeah, there's some. It's not terrible. I definitely like this first one quite a bit more. It's got some more fruity notes to it. It's a little bit sour. Um, it lacks kind of the good bitter that I would get from this one. So they're definitely very different. If somebody put these next to me, I'd think that they were two different coffees. So that's interesting in how that plays out. But anyway, yeah. Again, thanks guys. See ya. Bye.